again, everyone, and welcome back to the Frontline with Joe and Joe Pasillo and Joe Resinello. And once more, let us go into the breach. Joe, you spent a lot of time on Justin Trudeau. You must have a cast iron stomach. You really must, because I couldn't do what you do. I could not have pumped out all those videos and commentaries that you did with this guy, substantive ones too, some funny. So I know that a lot of them were meant to be funny, but a lot of substance there in criticizing what this guy is all about, exposing his nonsense. Joe, like I said, you got a cast iron stomach. Watch this. You can stomach it better than I can. We'll let our audience see it. And Joe, I'm going to come back because I really need your comments.
Building back better means getting support to the most vulnerable while maintaining our momentum on reaching the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the SDGs. Canada is here to listen and to help. This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset. This is our chance to accelerate our pre-pandemic efforts to reimagine economic systems that actually address global challenges like extreme poverty, inequality, and climate change.
He just told you the agenda. We need to protect the most vulnerable. Okay, I guess in theory, I agree with that. But what about that carbon tax that's going to wreck your middle class? Because it's their bills when they go up, those people can't eat. And that's a fact, by the way. That's not hyperbole. If your bill goes up $100 because you're cutting back on energy production and you're adding a tax to it, well, guess what? You can't spend $100 on groceries. And if you got 5 kids, you're not feeding them, at least not feeding them well. But Justin Trudeau doesn't care. And he just told you, what does it mean, Joe Resinello, to reimagine an economic system? Marxism, globalism, that's the goal. You'll all eat bugs and you'll all like it. Help me, Joe.
Well, Joe, ultimately, there's 2 carbon taxes, too. It's not 1, it's 2. Ultimately, the IDJ, that's just rhetoric. Too many people buy it. And sadly, it's the press that's feeding it because they're the ones that are part of the establishment and they're not affected financially by it. Ultimately, Justin Trudeau is just the point of the spear. He is nothing more than a spokesperson for an ideology that does not represent Canada. It does not represent the poor. Inflation is a tax on the poor, particularly the poor. And inflation has crippled Canadians. It's destroyed the middle class. But oh no, he has an answer for that too. It's called a rebate, which ultimately will lead to the universal income. And that will put you on the plantation forever. You will never get off of it. And poor people are easily controlled because I give you your money. Don't question me and don't vote for me. Don't not vote for me because then you won't get your money, your check. Right. So you eat your crumb in the corner. That is what's happening before your eyes.
Let me ask you this. I love your opinion on this. I'm of the opinion that when they build these 15-minute cities that Chris Sky and others have talked about, all right, which is a horrible thought to me, where everything you need is within 15 minutes. And and by the way, there's armed military to make sure they monitor who goes in and who goes out. I firmly believe all they're going to do is feed those 15-minute cities with sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I firmly believe that. That's the way they're going to placate those people. Remember, I asked you this before. I'll ask you again for those who are new here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. What did Stalin make sure was the people of the Soviet Union had in abundance more than anything else?
Vodka.
And it's the same thing. Yeah, it's a 15-minute city. Yeah, you can't travel out to the countryside, but you're going to get a lot of pornography. You can have sex with who you want. We'll make sure that drugs are legal. We know that because they want to make drugs legal everywhere. Be a lot of booze there, all right? And you'll be just fine. You'll be happy. You want to know why? Because there is no God. There is no heaven. There is no hell. There's just your miserable existence, which we, big brother and big sister, are going to make sure we alleviate your pain and suffering by offering you freedom through sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And you'll be fine. And when you go into the ground, you're dead. Don't worry about it. But we'll make sure you have a good time before you go. What a pathetic existence. And there's people, Joe, by the way, that would buy that. We know that because the sexual revolution has been so overwhelmingly successful. in imposing political control on the people. If it wasn't for the sexual revolution with abortion and gay rights and contraception and the whole thing, the Democrats wouldn't get elected. Nobody would vote for them. But it's selfish people who keep voting for them. They actually vote against their own interests in the name of what? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I believe that. And I think you could demonstrate that. Your thoughts, Joe?
Well, too many people believe his rhetoric as well. They buy it when they talk about
Dude, this bozo here?
Oh, he's the head of the spear. He's just a talking head. To be honest with you, he represents a larger ideology that's outside of Canadian interests. If you think otherwise, tell me how much you paid for food and how much is left in your checkbook. You can't afford to eat.
Right.
You can't afford to live.
He can.
Absolutely. And the people in his economic class will be just fine, but you won't. But getting back to your point, a lot of these people, why do they subscribe to these ideologies? Frankly, most of them come from broken homes. Most of them are wounded people. Most of them had no and never, well, I shouldn't say never, have no understanding of the love of God, of forgiveness, of receiving mercy and giving it. They weren't raised that way. They don't understand what that means, and they are acting out of those wounds. When's the last time, and I'm not using this as like a political soapbox or a religious one for that matter, when's the last time you've seen someone who has a belief in a higher power? I'm not even going to say what religion, that came from a loving home, buy into any of this nonsense. How you listen, I'll just use it because I'm Catholic. When's the last time you heard a daily communicant buy into this nonsense, irregardless of their economic class, irregardless of their color? When's the last time you saw an Orthodox Jew who comes from a family of 8, a loving home, buy into this? That doesn't mean that they're perfect. That doesn't mean I'm perfect, because I'm not. But I don't buy into that.
Well, you call BS and lies where you see it.
But a lot of people, because what people reject, and this is a Rousseauian belief, Rousseau, the philosopher, does not believe in the natural law. They don't believe that inside of every soul, there's certain things that basically you are born with a need for, and you are, regardless of what you've been told or how you've been brainwashed, you need a mother and a father. And when you don't have that love, when you don't have that stable, loving home, there are wounds, and those wounds fester, and then those wounds project out onto society. And that's why we're never going to vote our way out of this, because there are too many people with those wounds. The answer, frankly, stems to this: strong families produce strong and healthy people of all kinds, all economic classes. But how does a family stay strong? God has to be in the center. Without that, it doesn't work. And that's why our society is breaking down. And Joe, it comes right down to that. And that's why no matter who becomes the prime minister in Canada, no matter who becomes the president, there are too many wounded people running around. And those wounds stem back to their childhood. That's why people are killing themselves. That's why there's high depression. That's why there's high drug abuse.
That's why they hate their own identity and reject it and want to assume another identity.
And that is the truth. And people don't want to say it. People will laugh at you. People will scoff at you for that. But I got news for you. People that come from families, irregardless of their color, irregardless of their religion. It could be a Mormon family. I don't agree with their ideology, but I'll tell you this. I've been through Utah. They're good people.
Yes.
Good people.
You'd want a Mormon as a neighbor.
I'm just using that as an example.
I'm saying you'd want a Mormon as a neighbor. I would have no problem having an Orthodox Jew as a neighbor, a Logos believing Muslim. Okay, who cares about his kids?
100%.
I got no problem, because guess what? That man's not looking to destroy my family. I don't agree with him on religion. I think they should all be Catholic. We don't shy away from that. But the fact is, I could live peacefully
But
with my
I'm just
neighbor.
talking about raising people. Again, I'm not talking about religion, just healthy.
Well, can
As
I
in-
throw this out to you? Can I throw this
Sure.
out to you? What is the one thing that people, let's say, those who believe in God, okay, regardless of religion, what they ultimately believe, and I think would agree with us, is okay, you don't accept Jesus as the Logos incarnate, but you do accept Logos as order, as rationality. Is any of this that you're seeing ordered, or is it disorder? Is any of it freedom, or is it chaos?
But here's
Is any of it
hook, though. You're
rational,
right.
Joe? Is
But
any
the
of it
thing is,
rational or
their life
irrational?
mirrors it. You see, the problem is, Joe, you're right. There is no order, but they're a part of the disorder and they're not willing to change. You see, because that's all they ever knew. And that's a tough cycle to break. Like, that's the problem.
Well,
Like, many of these people, that's all they've ever known is disorder from the time they were born to the time they exist as adults. And some of them have corner offices. And
right.
some of them are highly intelligent and make a lot of money and are powerful, but their wounds are as real as someone who's in prison.
Well, then here's my thing. Go take care of your own wounds and don't project your disorder on the rest of society. 'Cause
Easier
we
said
don't
than
want it.
done. I agree with you, but ultimately, the only way to change people like this, ultimately, is they have to change themselves. I've learned this in my own life. You can never change somebody. You can't make someone drink something. What you have to do is convince them by your life. You see, the world needs witnesses. People who are like that have to see the functionality of other people's lives, the joy, the peace, how things are to work. And then they'll question when they wake up in the middle of the night, why is my life a mess? Why don't I have any peace? I have anxieties. I have this issue and that issue, and this person is no different than me, but they don't. You see, the world needs witnesses. It doesn't need politicians, because you're not going to change that guy because we're not addressing their wounds.
Right.
And that is, I think, the answer. Honestly, because here's the reason why I come to that. For years, Joe, we have put forth some very, very strong and linear arguments. Many of them are objective. Many of them note facts, statistics, history. And people still are not buying it, because while all those things could be true, the wounds underneath their positions, the wounds underneath their lifestyle aren't being addressed. And that's only addressed by love, by mercy, and by witness. And that is how the world is going to change. The politicians are not going to do it, because those people still will not listen. They choose not to because they're still wounded. Justin Trudeau, I will guarantee you, I don't know him intimately, I will guarantee you, he is a wounded soul. He is a wounded soul. And ultimately, his wounds are now being projected, because he's in a position of power, on millions.
Yeah, we got to leave it there. Thanks for joining us at the front line with Joe and Joe. Stick around for more great content.
To all my Canadian American friends, if you like what we do on the front line, I'm asking you to give $1. Just $1. Production costs money. We do it for you. We are self-funded, and $1 goes a long way. That's less than a cup of coffee. In Canada, a cup of coffee might cost $5, so you're getting off easy. Please, just give us $1, and we'll keep the content coming your way. God bless you, and remember, stay free.